it worked very well. I sold out of everything. I had no inventory left at all.
Oh, wow. You're watching Dropping Gems podcast with
LaMonique Mac.
Sitting here today with Lynessa Layne, and she has written a number of books in a series. Tell us the name of your series, Lynessa.
It is called Don't Close Your Eyes, and subsequent novels are with the label DCYE for short. Yeah, so that's
do you have one nearby? I see you looking over there. Don't close your eyes. Love it. You and I are both in the Twig group, the Tuscaloosa Writers and Illustrators Guild. And we've just been watching you in the guild, and your marketing, your in-person marketing is like fireworks. We're just so proud of you all over the place.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We see you're doing like a whole book tour. You started in 2021 and you've got like 2022 filled out ready.
Yes, and then some already in 2023 as well. It's
oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast everything is filling up.
Okay. And now I noticed one of the more recent tours you did was in a prison. It was like the one that was done through ShawShank Redemption.
Yes. That was really cool. I love that movie. I had actually never seen that movie until the weekend before we went to the Ohio State Reformatory. And going there, and I remember it was just like, I just want to touch the building. Like, I just want to touch the stone. I want to, like, this is so neat. It was a really cool experience. It was chilly, very cold.
It was cold in there. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's like that in jail in general. It's usually when people are like,
girl, yes. And it was very humbling. I will say that much. It made me, I found myself praying for people who had already been in there at one time, but also anybody who's in prison right now, and just thanking God that I am, blessed to not have ever gone to prison or anything, because up there, especially, man, the winters are just brutal, and there was no heat except for in, the warden's quarters and just the main areas where the guards and things would be. At one point, we went on a tour after the show was over, and my knees were like knocking because I was so cold. It was so cold. Yeah.
You can only imagine if people were there 24 hours round the clock. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. But what an experience. Is this like an annual thing they do?
Now, I did ask about that. I think they've gone there a couple of times before, but I don't think it's annual. I think it's more like every other year or something.
Okay.
I'm definitely interested in going back again. The drive was killer, but the rest of it was it was a neat experience.
And did you want to share? Did you make a lot of sales? Like, was it worth it?
That one, I'm not even going to pretend that I don't lose money on going to these in-person events, only because the drive time is brutal and the gas and all of that, and we bring our children with us. I have 5 kids. And so I want them to see all these different places.
Okay. And you're homeschooling.
Yes. And I'm homeschooling. Yeah. So it's kind of a cool way to give them a view of other places, cultures, just the environment change and all of that. So we brought 2 cars this time. Okay. That was brutal. And because all of my writing, my gear, this was a great lesson to learn on what I need and what I don't need. I think I sold 4 of my sets. Like, I have 4 books right now.
Okay.
So I sold 4 sets of 4 on that. And then I sold, I think, like 10 book ones. But it was such a big show that this one, I think there were 110 authors. Oh, so wow. You got to think, you're kind of in a saturated area. And if you can stand out and get them to buy your book or whatever, that's great. But what I have done that has made me stand out, and I noticed other people were like, ooh, I hand out free copies of chapter 1. of my
Oh,
series.
okay.
Yeah,
So
and so
what form do you use to hand it out in?
you mean like how did I print it out or whatever?
Yeah, you hand it out like it's printed. Is it?
I printed it out basically exactly how it looks in the book, and I used the booklet format. And I just took what I used for my paperback manuscript, my PDF, and I just chose the pages that I wanted to print, and I hit booklet. And so I basically printed out the front cover, the back cover with the synopsis. So you had all the cover art.
Cool.
I put all of my information on there. And then I figure, chapter 1 of my series is like one of those things where you're either going to know right away, I hate this, or I really want to read this. And
Good
so
idea.
to me, that's, and I used to be the demo girl, the sample girl at the grocery store whenever I was a teenager and young adult. So that has really come into play with that marketing strategy.
Okay.
It was a really neat thing to look at. I got a lot of ideas of things that I want to do differently next time. I really had fun though. I had fun.
I love that marketing strategy with the booklet. Do you have one of those nearby?
So here's just the little booklet that I created.
Okay.
And it's only chapter 1. I put my copyright information, like I printed my copyright page. You probably can't even see it because it's so faint, but I even have my watermark of my brand on every page. That way it's not so easy to just lay down and, you're not going to copy. Even then it's just chapter 1. Like you have like all my social sites, all of my contact information, anywhere that you could find me. And what else I like to do is typically what I'll do is I'll put bookmarks and any little like promo material, like business cards or anything. I'll stick them in here and I'll stuff them basically. Okay. And then that way I hand them out and people automatically have like 3 things of mine in their hand. It worked very well whenever I did the local craft show here where I live. I sold out of everything. I had no inventory left at all. And it was because I'd handed out those pamphlets, and all I would be, people would pass by and be like, hey, does anybody like to read? And they'd, yeah, I like to read, or no, I don't like to read. But I would hand them the chapter 1 and be like, well, would you like a copy of chapter 1 just to play with later on whenever you're bored or something? And they're like, sure. Yeah. And I had people who did that on Saturday, and then they came back on Sunday specifically to buy the book. Good. I also had people apparently walking right around my tent reading and then turning right back around and coming back. So I was like,
so that's an excellent strategy.
Yeah. I sold a lot of books that way. And then, like I said, I have a different voice. A lot of people tell me that in my writing. Mm-hmm. And so I really am one of those authors that you tend to either love or hate. Okay. And so I figure, like I said, chapter 1 is really a good idea so that you're not buying something you're just going to be like, oh, that was a waste. Like,
well, I know people do that in ebook form. They'll try to get people to sign up with their newsletter, and then sometimes the goodie that they'll give them is chapter 1, or if they want to give them a really big goodie, they'll give them the prequel to the story. But I've never seen it done in paperback form, like in a booklet. And I think that's like a wonderful idea, that other authors can grasp onto.
Yeah, they were really looking whenever I was like, here, I have a copy of chapter 1. They're like, wait, what? Like, oh, here we go.
And that sounds like that would work really good if you're at like a 2-day or more event. Like day 1, but like you said, they were voracious for your books. Like they read it standing around the tent and were like, okay, I'm ready right now. Some of them.
Yeah.
I know you're an independent publisher. That kind of leads us into that. You're able to make those things on your own because you are an independent publisher. And yes. Now, did you do that through KDP?
No, I strictly go through Ingram because Ingram is where every major retailer and bookstore and everything, that's who they use to purchase books from. And so if your stuff is in Ingram, then you are wide.
That's a gem. Especially for other authors.
And I think at craft shows, I like that they're not so saturated as a book show. So I'm going to book shows with the idea not so much to sell out or anything. If I do, wonderful. If I sell one copy, wonderful. I'm going into it more for the people and the dialogue that I get to open up, and I also learn a lot about readers themselves whenever I am meeting and greeting with them, because just gauging their personalities and the things that they want versus, we can take a bazillion classes out there
Yeah.
for marketing or catching, your next 1,000 readers or this or that, whatever getchy thing. But at the end of the day, I am just looking at it like, if I'm just out there for the one, just the one, because that one matters to me. And I believe I say it in my very first book. I say, for you, dear reader, typing made me a writer, publishing made me an author, and you make every word worth sharing. Because if just one other person loves it like I do, then it was worth getting it off my laptop and out there in the
Wow.
world. But meeting these people and knowing, sometimes they'll buy your book just because they love you when they meet you or your
Yeah.
energy. There's something about meeting an author and knowing the personality behind the book that amplifies it. Like meeting you. And, my daughter, just like meeting you and knowing now this person I'm reading about, here she is. Like, how wonderful. And then to go from like the story that you have told and it be so challenging or personal, but to share that
Yeah,
and now you're connecting. There's something wonderful about that.
that's true.